Well, hey, good evening, Groves. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Welcome back to another week. We're nearing the end here, which is kind of crazy to be thinking about. But we're continuing on in this Grove series, kind of as a tag along to our series in Acts right now. And so each week we've been focusing on different missions agencies, different mission partners that we work with and support and partner with here at Rising Church. It's just been a really cool journey so far. And so tonight, we're going to be looking at a missions organization that's been around for a long time, one that we've had really cool opportunities to partner with over the years and send short-term teams to go and serve in different places, really all over the world. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at an organization called YWAM, which stands for Youth with a Mission. YWAM is an international missions organization that really exists to serve, to equip young people, to call and invite young people to go join in God's mission all over the world. Like I said, this organization's been around for a little bit now. It was started by a man and his wife, Lauren and Darlene Cunningham, in 1960. And this vision, this kind of dream for what would become this ministry, began for Lauren Cunningham after he was leading a short-term mission trip with students to Hawaii, and before a few years before that, he himself was on his own short-term trip somewhere, and laying in bed one night while he was reading scripture, he describes in his own words, having this vision, this dream, where he kind of saw this world map above his head, and this world map was like moving, it was animated. And what he saw was waves, like water, but waves of young people kind of flooding the earth, taking the gospel to every corner of the earth, to the ends of the earth. And from that vision began this effort, this really what was his life's work, to invest in, to serve, and to build this organization, this ministry that would equip young people to carry the gospel to the ends of the earth. It's been really cool over the years at Rising, and even years before the Rising days. We've had opportunities on multiple occasions to take our students on short-term mission trips to bases all around the world. I think there's probably been at least 5 or 6 separate different bases, anywhere from Central America to Southeast Asia to Europe, where we've taken students on short-term trips to go and partner and show and expose our own youth, our own students to the world of missions, the call that God has given all of us to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. But there's been one base in particular has been really special to us over the years, that so many of our students, so many people that have been leading these trips over the years have gotten to benefit from, that really all began when Aaron was leading trips way back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, kind of my introduction with YWAM came when I was 19, and actually played a part in kind of my trajectory in going into ministry, because the summer between my freshman and sophomore years of college, I was really trying to ask God, like, hey, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go into full-time youth ministry? Is this the calling that you have on my life? And so I spent that entire summer helping lead a short-term 3-month-long mission trip for students through Europe. And on that, the organization we were with, they had like a library, a kind of a portable library that we would read. People could check out books and read along on these long bus journeys. And so one of the ones I read was Lauren Cunningham, another guy, Floyd McClung, and kind of their story, their origin stories. And they're the ones that kind of helped start YWAM. And so kind of got this taste of how the story began. But also when we got to Amsterdam, we got to team up with YWAM on their work in the red light district. And so that was kind of like very early on in my formation. And I remember 9 years later as a youth pastor now, having listened to God's call on my life, that I kind of felt like he affirmed on that summer trip. Took the very first group of students from Lawrenceville, Georgia. We went down to near Cancun and worked with the YWAM base there. And so that was kind of the first introduction, and then started just working with them over and over again. A few years later, I think it was 2005, took some students down to Costa Rica. Eric and Katie Hove, they were on that one. Rachel Dorio, she was on that one. Several other people that you're probably familiar with, including Jonathan's brother, he was on that one. And so we went there and we got to minister in an area called Heredia. And we met this couple that were kind of young at the time, and they were about the same age as Kimberly and I, and they had kids similar age. And they were Diego and Sala, this young ministry couple. So got to meet them, got to get to know them and do ministry with them and do life together. And we forged a friendship, over that 10 days we were there with them. And that next year, they decided they felt God calling them to plant their own base in an area called Guanacaste, which is near the coast in Costa Rica, in kind of a rural area, an area that the gospel wasn't necessarily going out into. And so they felt God leading them there. And so I think it was a couple of years later, maybe 2007, we took another team down there, and this was right after they had just opened this base. And so we got to come in and basically help them launch their ministry in this new area. John, were you on that trip? Jonathan was on that trip. And one of the things we did is they really wanted to do student ministry and kind of reach out to the youth. And so they're like, well, Aaron, you've been doing youth ministry for 2 decades at this point. So, hey, you want to help organize basically a camp, a retreat that you do all the time with your students in America. Let's just do one here in Costa Rica. And so we said, okay. And we just brought all the same stuff that we would do on any retreat here in America with Surge or Altar or whatever, that we just did that. And we did it down in Costa Rica. And I think there was like 45 youth. And when you say youth of the mission, it's not just middle schoolers and high schoolers. It's like 12 to 25. And so we just had this weekend retreat. I spoke all weekend. Our theme was superheroes. We did games. We did, brought all the big earth ball and played all these crazy games, steal the bacon, all the stuff we would normally do. And we got to minister to them. And we left and came back to America, and they continued with these students because they had kind of, a lot of them received Jesus that weekend. A lot of them heard God's call to ministry on that weekend. And so we left, and then they continued, and then we just kept coming back and forth over the next 15 years, I guess, more than that at this point, and have had chance to go back to that same base and come along Sal and Diego in their ministry and kind of see what's happened since then. And I got to go back several times as a leader and then kind of pass the baton on to the next generation behind me. And so I think you have some cool stories of what happened out of all that.
Well, yeah, and it's been really cool because it's just one of those really awesome relationships, and we have this history with this family, with Diego and Sala and their kids, and even the people that that have been in Nicoya at that base for the longest time. And so there's actually, like 2 youth that I think were at that camp. No, not that I think, that were at that camp. And, we've heard testimonies over the years since going back that those young people at the time, that camp itself and you speaking and our team being there and getting to know them was a huge part in what played into their own call, their own personal conviction and commitment to long-term missions. And so there's 2 in particular that have been able to kind of stick around and continue on in this ministry that were there at that camp, Gabino and Isabella. And what's really cool is, a couple years ago, this is summer 2023, so last summer, I had the opportunity to lead a team of our students back down to Costa Rica. It was really cool because coming out of COVID, we weren't able to travel for a few years to some of these far out places. This is kind of the first summer that we had the opportunity to go. And so we went back to Costa Rica with Diego and Sala. And Gabino, Isabella were there. They were on staff at the space. Their families were there. We got to meet their kids. And it was really cool to see this beautiful picture of how years ago, decade plus ago, Aaron and his team of students were there pouring into Gabino and Isabella. And for me to have the opportunity to take our students now and for our students now to be invested and poured into, served by Gabino and Isabella was just this really beautiful picture of true kingdom partnership. I think that's something that we always look for at Rising when it comes to short-term missions experiences, that we don't just want to go somewhere random. It's important that there's a relationship, that there's a history there, because you get to see this reciprocity over time, and it's a really beautiful thing. One of the cool things is a lot of these YWAM trips that we've done over the years, these short-term trips with students, have been really formational, and God has kind of used as a catalyst to really call some of our students into long-term missions. Just like we heard from Kristen Sutton last week, talking about how a short-term missions experience really opened her eyes to the possibility and the call to long-term missions efforts, we've had plenty of students over the years who go on a trip to our YWAM base in Costa Rica or Panama or somewhere else, and they come back and go, I wonder if this is actually something that I'm supposed to do with my life. And it's been cool to see, just thinking through all the names in my head of people that have gone on to go and partner in long-term missions with YWAM, or go try to seek out and discover God's call with another organization, what have you. And so one of the cool things, last summer, like I said, we went on this trip. One of the students on that trip was Felicity Stanley, who has been a part of our community for a number of years now, just graduated at the end of this past summer. She was on that trip, and this kind of same thing happened with her, where she was on this trip and really felt God's tugging, God's call to maybe join in. And so for the last month or so, she's been in Kona, Hawaii, on a discipleship training school with YWAM, where she's studying for a few months before she and a team will go out and do outreach in some part of the world for another 3 months. And so we thought, since we're talking about YWAM, it would be cool now that she's been there for a month to kind of get a brief video update from her and her time so far, what's kind of on the horizon for her. So we're going to check out an update from Felicity Stanley. We hope you guys enjoy seeing her face, and we'll be back here in a sec.
Hi, Rising family. Love you guys. Felicity here at the YWAM base in Kona, Hawaii. You can see the palm trees behind me. Oh, it's so beautiful here, you guys. Literally, really gives you an appreciation for God's creation here. So much going on. I've already been here for like a month now. Wow, that's crazy. Really feel like God has moved so much on a day-to-day basis, you guys. We're listening to so many different guest speakers, learning about evangelism and ministry. I've grown so much spiritually. We're doing communal worship and prayer together, interceding on behalf of nations. If I wasn't prepared before, I'm truly feeling so ready and just excited to go out into the mission field and see where God is going to take me and what he's called me to. Another little update that's coming up soon. I now have my outreach country, and that's Albania. Woo woo! So excited. Oh my gosh, my team. So good, so anointed. They're all just on fire for the Lord and super excited to go to Albania. It is a majority Muslim country, but is an open country. So we're so excited to just love on them and preach the gospel to them. But you guys, I may be here now, but I didn't start like this. It started out with helping in the church and grove babysitting and just slowly getting the resources and means that I needed, and just really chasing after God's calling on my life. Honestly, I don't think I would be here today if I hadn't had the community at Rising to just push me forward and say, no, like chase after what God is calling you to. Like you can do it. And having financial aid, having discipleship, it all plays such an important key role. I would say that my mission trip to Costa Rica was especially a key role in me coming here, because when we got to volunteer at the YWAM base there, I had such a fear going in. Then I realized, like, wow, God can use anyone. Like, God can use me. Like, I may be young, but that's not even a factor in God's plan, And right now, the next generation that are going to be your missionaries, that's the middle schoolers and high schoolers in Grove babysitting right now, raising funds to go on those mission trips. And you have no idea the impact that that's going to have on them, and how God is just going to set their hearts on fire, and just give them such a passion for missions. Gen Z has such a passion inside of them, truly. And there can be so much good that can come from that. And God can definitely use that. So please, please, please support them with financial aid, give them discipleship, and give them that little push so that they know that God truly can use them, no matter their age, no matter their background. So love you guys so much. I hope you guys are doing well. See you soon.
So it was great getting to hear from Felicity, and I want to encourage you to keep praying for her and her journey and God's calling and what he's doing in and through her, especially as she gets ready for her outreach portion of DTS. To me, this is one of the things that we want to be as a church. We talk about investing in the next generation. We talk about how we want to be missional. We want to take God's word to the ends of the earth, locally and also globally. And so that takes workers. It takes people who are willing to go. And so, we talked about short-term missions, the value of it. We talked about YWAM and kind of how it's been intertwined in many of our stories. Lots of different people. In fact, a good portion of our staff, at Rising YWAM has been part of their stories. And so to see how God has worked through that, but kind of another angle on it is we really support, doing short-term missions here at Rising Church, whether to ASP with adults or to Nicaragua, and some of our student trips that are coming up this summer that, Robbie just talked about, with the parents at the parent meeting, wherever we're being sent, whether that's to Mexico or that's to Nashville, or that's, on a middle school mission trip. We've always kind of, as a youth pastor for almost, 23 years or whatever it was, it's like, that was the best tool in the arsenal that I feel like we had, is get students out on mission trips, because that's where they're going to hear God most clearly, when they're being used by God. And then God somehow, meets them in that moment. And that's where they kind of see not only the greater world and the need around the world, but also the part that they can play in it. And so that's one of the reasons why we try to, with the students over the years, have tried to expose them to so many different types of ministries, because God's calling is not just everybody do the same thing. And so it's like, hey, go build a house in Mexico. Hey, now go to the inner city and do mercy ministry. Hey, now go and do a ministry where you have to share your testimony or share your faith, or do a kids camp or VBS. And so you're being exposed to all these different types of ministries so that you can figure out what your unique DNA is when it comes to ministry. But that takes people going, but it also takes churches sending. And so one of the things that I don't know if you're aware of here at Rising Church that we've been doing since day one is, when it comes to our groves, is we've had students that have been doing the childcare to help make groves possible for families to be a part of. And so it takes students who are willing to take care of other people's kids, for them, not only for the kids to be invested in, but also for the parents to be invested in. And so the way we've been able to do this over the years is by groves, everybody who's in a grove, whether you have kids or not, giving to that fund in order to support those students, because what happens is they earn money that goes towards their summer camps or their mission trips. Because as you can imagine, short-term mission trips over the summer, they can add up pretty quickly. And so this kind of takes off some of the edge, because they're working throughout the year to earn money that goes to offset the cost. And so as we kind of get near the end of our growth season, there's a bunch of students that you may not know that are on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays here at the hub, taking care of multiple kids, giving up their time and energy. And hopefully we want to kind of, I don't say pay them back, but we want to reward them by saying, hey, we're going to help fund your mission trip. And that's part of Felicity's story, is for the last couple of years, she's been doing Grove babysitting in order to help earn the money to go to Costa Rica, which is where she felt God's calling, which is why she's at YWAM now on a DTS. And so you can kind of see how these things kind of play into one another. And so I want to encourage you, I want to ask you, if you've been a part of Grove this semester, go on your phone, go to the Church Center app, you scroll down to giving, you scroll down to Sprouts, which is what we're calling it now, and donate. Because if every family, whether you have a kid who's being babysat or not, or in childcare and grows or not, it's like, if everybody were to give 20, 25, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, then it's like, we could send these kids on, these students on these mission trips and take that pressure off of their families. So to me, this is who we are. This is what we do here at Rising Church, is we invest in the next generation, who's invested in the next generation, who's investing in parents who can be a part of Grove. And so it's a win, 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 win all over the place. They may go and they may impact an Isabella or a Gambino who is going to invest in the next generation. And that's how we carry it forward. So I really want to ask you guys if you would all be willing to pitch in and make this possible, because this is the result. So we just want to thank you. YWAM's a great organization that we love to partner with. We've seen lots of fruit come out of it. And so thank you for hearing us out. And we had some good questions, I think, that will help you kind of stir all this in.